You are seeing this because your psyche has been preparing you for a specific kind of power, the power that comes from silence. This is not a coincidence. Most people spend their entire lives broadcasting their intentions, announcing their plans, seeking validation before they have earned results. You are different. You have felt the pull towards something deeper, something ancient. I have discovered throughout my work that before every major breakthrough in personal power, the psyche emits specific signals: a withdrawal, a turning inward, a desire to stop explaining yourself to people who will never understand. Most people miss them. They stay stuck in the pattern of external validation. They remain addicted to the dopamine hit of announcing their goals, of getting excited reactions, of feeling important before they have done anything important. Right now, in this exact moment, you are standing at the gateway between the performer and the creator, between the person who talks about work and the person who does work, between the identity that needs witnesses and the identity that becomes its own witness. Your psyche knows this. That is why you are here. Here is what terrifies most people about working in silence. It is not the loneliness, it is not the lack of encouragement, it is the terrifying possibility that they might actually succeed. And then they would have no one to blame, no excuses, no witnesses to their struggle who could validate their effort if they fail. We have been conditioned to believe that silence equals secrecy, that keeping your goals private means you are hiding, that if you are not sharing your journey, you must be ashamed of it. I have discovered something I call the validation addiction. It is the unconscious need to broadcast your intentions because deep down you do not believe you will follow through. The announcement becomes a substitute for the action. The planning becomes a replacement for the doing. Why? Because when you tell people what you are going to do, you get a small reward. Their excitement, their encouragement, their belief in you. Your brain registers this as achievement. The dopamine hits. The satisfaction comes. And the actual walk becomes less urgent. But there is something deeper, something more terrifying. When you work in silence, you confront what Jung called the golden shadow. These are the qualities you possess but have disowned. Your discipline, your capacity for sustained effort, your ability to endure without external validation, your power. Most people are more afraid of their own power than they are of their weakness, because power means responsibility. Power means you can no longer play the victim. Power means you must live up to your potential, and that terrifies people more than staying mediocre ever could. Before we go deeper, you need to understand why you have been unable to work in silence until now. It is not because you lack discipline, it is not because you are lazy, it is not because the timing has not been right. You have been addicted to external validation because your nervous system learned early that visibility equals safety, that being seen equals being loved, that announcing your efforts equals getting support. Your brain interprets silence as isolation. It interprets working without witnesses as abandonment. So it creates anxiety, restlessness, the compulsive urge to share, to post, to tell someone, anyone. I have spent decades studying this pattern. I watched patients approach their greatest victories only to sabotage themselves at the last moment, not through laziness, through revelation, through suddenly telling everyone what they were working on right before the critical phase. One man was 6 months into a complete life transformation. New body, new business, new identity, he had told no one. Then, 3 weeks before his goal deadline, he posted everything on social media. Within days, the discipline collapsed. The momentum died. He returned to his old patterns. Another woman was writing a book in complete silence, making extraordinary progress. Then she mentioned it at a family dinner. Her mother asked how it was going. Her sister wanted to read drafts. Her brother made a joke about her not finishing. Within a week, she had not written a single word. A young entrepreneur was building his company in secret. No announcements, no updates, just silent, relentless work. Then he told his friends at a party. They were excited, encouraging, supportive. The next morning, his motivation was gone. He could not explain why. This was not weakness. This was the psyche protecting itself from the terror of transformation. Because transformation means death, not physical deaths, psychological death, the death of the identity that needs validation, the death of the person who seeks approval, the death of the self that cannot function without external witnesses. Right now, your psyche is preparing for that death, and it is terrified. There are specific signs that reveal when this turn is coming. First, the phenomenon I call silentium necessarium, the necessary silence. You begin to feel a visceral discomfort when talking about your plans. Not shame, not fear of judgment, something deeper. A sense that speaking about your work is literally draining the energy needed to do the work. Most people interpret this as social anxiety, as imposter syndrome, as fear of failure. I understand this differently. This is your psyche withdrawing energy from performance and redirecting it toward creation. Your unconscious knows that every word you speak about unfinished work is energy stolen from finishing that work. You might notice yourself changing the subject when people ask what you are working on, giving vague answers, feeling protective of your goals in a way that feels almost primal. This is not secrecy. This is psychological necessity. Second, loss of interest in other people's validation. Things that used to fulfill you suddenly feel empty. Likes on social media feel meaningless. Compliments feel hollow. Other people's excitement about your plans feels irritating rather than motivating. People you used to tolerate suddenly feel unbearable. Especially people who only know how to talk about their plans without ever executing them. People who confuse intention with action. People who mistake announcement for achievement. This is the psyche withdrawing energy from what no longer serves growth. Your unconscious is severing the neural pathways that connected your sense of worth to external approval. It is rebuilding your identity around internal validation, around the satisfaction of work itself, around the integrity of silent effort. This is not depression, this is readiness. Third, the pressure cooker feeling. You sense something building inside you, a restlessness, an urgency, a knowing that change is coming and you cannot stop it even if you wanted to. Your sleep changes. You wake up earlier, or you cannot sleep at all because your mind is processing the work. Your appetite changes. Food becomes less interesting because you are being fed by something else, by purpose, by momentum, by the silent accumulation of effort. This is your psyche generating the psychological pressure needed to break through, like water heated in a sealed container. The pressure builds until transformation becomes inevitable. Most people try to suppress this feeling with distractions, addictions, and busyness. They watch more television, they scroll more, they start new hobbies, they suddenly want to reorganize their entire house. Anything to avoid the discomfort of this pressure. But that pressure is not the problem. That pressure is the solution. It is your psyche preparing you for the breakthrough that working in silence creates. Here is where it gets dangerous. When success is close, self-sabotage kicks in hardest. I have documented this pattern across hundreds of cases. The moment someone is on the verge of breaking through to a new level of achievement, they suddenly feel compelled to tell people about it, to share it, to make it visible. Think about the last time you were close to finishing something significant, a project, a goal, a transformation. What happened? Did you suddenly post about it on social media? Did you tell your family in detail what you were doing? Did you start explaining your process to friends? Did you create elaborate systems for documenting your journey before you had actually completed the journey? These are not random events. These are your psyche trying to protect you from the terror of success. Because success in silence means you did it alone, without cheerleaders, without witnesses validating every step, without the safety net of people rooting for you. Success in silence means you have to own your power completely. You cannot attribute it to lucky timing or supportive friends or good circumstances. You did the work, in the dark, alone, with no one watching. That level of self-reliance terrifies the ego, because it means you are capable of far more than you have been allowing yourself to achieve. It means every excuse you have ever made was a lie. It means you have been choosing mediocrity. So the psyche creates urgent reasons to reveal your work prematurely. It convinces you that sharing will help, that accountability will motivate you, that community will support you. And all of that can be true, but it is also a way to diffuse the pressure, to release the energy, to avoid the final push that working in absolute silence demands. But here is the truth. Working in silence is not about secrecy. It is not about isolation. It is not about being mysterious or superior. Working in silence is about allowing. It is about stopping your resistance to your own evolution. I discovered that people do not fail to work hard because they lack ability. They fail because they cannot tolerate the psychological reality of their own power. They cannot tolerate what it means to be someone who achieves significant things without needing an audience. They cannot handle being seen only after success, not during the struggle. They cannot handle having no excuses when they fail because no one even knew they were trying. They cannot handle the purity of effort disconnected from external validation. They cannot handle the responsibility of knowing they are capable of extraordinary things. So they sabotage themselves. They create the familiar pattern of announcement followed by diminished effort, of excitement followed by abandonment, of starting strong and fading fast. This identity feels safe. It feels known. It feels like home, even when that home is burning down around them. Because at least in that home, they have witnesses, people who saw them try, people who can confirm they made an effort. Right now, you are being asked to burn.
Step into an identity that has no witnesses during the work, only after.
To become someone who finds satisfaction in the work itself, not in people knowing you are doing the work. The person who works in silence has no script. You do not know how to be that person yet. You do not know how to motivate yourself without likes, how to persevere without encouragement, how to push through difficulty without someone telling you that you can do it. But you are not becoming someone new. You are becoming who you actually are beneath all the conditioning and trauma and fear, beneath the learned need for validation, beneath the addiction to being seen. You are returning to the part of you that does not need permission, that does not need approval, that does not need witnesses, the part of you that Jung called the self, the individuated consciousness that acts from its own center, not from collective expectations. When you start to work in silence, the collective unconscious pushes back. Your family will ask what you are working on. Your friends will notice your absence. Your social media followers will wonder why you have gone quiet. And they will make that mean something about you, about your commitment, about your authenticity. This is why working in silence feels lonely at first, because the people around you are invested in the version of you that shares everything, that keeps them updated, that makes them feel included in your journey. People who were comfortable with the visible version of you become uncomfortable with the silent version. Your withdrawal feels like rejection to them. Your focus feels like arrogance. Your discipline feels like judgment of their lack of discipline. When you individuate, you will lose people. You must lose people, not because you want to, because your evolution reveals their stagnation, your silence reveals their noise, your focus reveals their distraction. And that is not tragedy, that is liberation. You do not need to become someone different. You need to stop pretending to be someone you are not. You are not someone who needs an audience to work hard. You are someone who works hard because the work itself is the reward, because excellence is its own validation, because silence is where real power is built. Your freedom becomes a mirror, and most people cannot look at that mirror without seeing everything they have been avoiding in themselves. The way forward. First, you must recognize your addiction to validation. Acknowledge how many times you have started something and immediately told people about it. How many goals you announced that you never achieved. How many times the announcement itself satisfied you enough that the work became optional. This is not about shame, this is about awareness. Your unconscious cannot change what it does not see. So see it. Notice the pattern. Notice how your brain wants to share, wants to post, wants to tell. And instead of acting on that impulse, simply observe it. You cannot eliminate the craving for validation, but you can stop feeding it. Every time you choose silence over announcement, you weaken that neural pathway. You teach your brain that satisfaction comes from completion, not from intention. Second, you must integrate your golden shadow. Reclaim the power you have been projecting onto others. You have been admiring discipline in other people while denying it in yourself. You have been impressed by people who work without needing validation while telling yourself you are not built that way. You have been treating silence as a special gift some people have, rather than a choice anyone can make. That is projection. That is giving away your power to avoid the responsibility of owning it. You are disciplined, you are capable of sustained effort, you are able to work without witnesses. These qualities are not outside you. They are inside you, disowned, waiting to be reclaimed. Third, you must grieve the identity that needs to share everything. You must let it die. There will be discomfort. There will be moments when you desperately want to tell someone what you are doing, when the silence feels unbearable, when you question whether this is worth it. That discomfort is not evidence you are doing something wrong. That discomfort is evidence you are doing something right. You are killing an old identity. That identity will fight for survival. It will create anxiety, doubt, loneliness. The illusion that sharing would help, let it die anyway. Grieve it if you need to. Thank it for protecting you when you needed protection, and then release it. Fourth, you must claim the identity of someone who works in silence before you have evidence. You cannot wait until you have achieved something to believe you are capable of working without validation. You must act as if you are already that person. You must make choices from that identity now. What would someone who works in silence do right now? They would stop scrolling social media looking for motivation. They would turn off notifications. They would protect their energy. They would show up to the work without announcement, without fanfare, without needing anyone to know. Do that, especially when it feels like pretending, because that is how you bridge the gap. You act as if until you become. Fifth, you must protect your transformation from collective pressure. When people ask what you are working on, you must learn to deflect, not with shame, not with secrecy, with boundaries, with a simple, I prefer to share results, not processes, with a polite redirect, with the confidence that you do not owe anyone access to your inner world. This will feel uncomfortable. People will push. They will make it mean something about your relationship with them. They will feel excluded. Let them. Your transformation is more important than their comfort. Your silence is more important than their curiosity. Sixth, you must learn to tolerate success without sabotaging it. When you start to see results from your silent work, your ego will panic. It will want to share, to celebrate publicly, to make sure everyone knows what you have achieved. Resist that urge, at least at first. Let yourself sit with success in private. Let yourself feel what it is like to achieve something and have no one know, to be proud without external validation, to succeed without announcement. This teaches your nervous system that success is safe, that you can handle it, that you do not need to diffuse it or share it or make it smaller to accommodate other people's discomfort. Seventh, understand that working in silence is not a destination. It is a practice. You will have moments where you slip, where you share too much, where you seek validation. That is not failure. That is human. What matters is that you notice, that you course correct, that you return to silence. Every day you choose, every moment you choose, to work without witnesses, to find satisfaction in the work itself, to let results speak louder than intentions, to build power in the dark, so when you finally step into the light, you are unshakable. This is your turn, not because the universe suddenly decided to be kind, but because you are finally ready to let yourself work without validation. You are finally done with the performance, done with the announcement, done with confusing intention with action, done with needing witnesses to confirm you are making progress. The signs are already appearing, the pressure building inside you, the restlessness when you think about your potential, the dissatisfaction with surface-level conversations, the visceral discomfort when you share your plans. These are not random. These are your psyche preparing for transformation. Your unconscious is severing the neural pathways that kept you dependent on external approval. It is rebuilding your identity around internal integrity. I have always believed that people who successfully complete this process become individuated. They stop living from the ego and start living from the self. They stop deriving worth from others and start generating worth from within. They work in silence not because they are hiding, but because they understand that silence is where power accumulates.
They achieve their goals because they are psychologically aligned with achievement, because they have killed the identity that needed validation and birthed the identity that is its own validation. Here is what you must do.
1. Acknowledge your unconscious pattern of seeking validation before achievement, without judgment. Simply see it clearly. 2. Decide that announcing your goals before completing them is no longer acceptable. That posting about your process before you have results is no longer an option. That the visible version of you who needs witnesses is dying today. 3. Identify one action you can take this very day that aligns with silent work. Delete a post about your goals. Stop talking about what you are going to do. Protect one project from being shared. Choose silence deliberately. 4. Expect resistance, not as evidence of failure, as evidence of transformation. Your ego will create anxiety, loneliness, the illusion that sharing would help. That is the old identity dying. Let it die. 5. Find allies who can witness your evolution without trying to hinder it. Not people who need constant updates. Not people who require you to explain yourself. People who understand that silence is not secrecy, but power. 6. Commit to the daily practice of choosing from your higher self. Every time you want to post, pause. Every time you want to announce, wait. Every time you want validation, give it to yourself by doing the work. 7. Ask yourself, what would the whole realized version of me do? Do that, especially when it feels like pretending, because that is how you bridge the gap. You act as if until you become. You are standing at the gateway. The choice is yours. You can return to the familiar pattern and pretend you did not hear these truths. You can go back to announcing goals and wondering why you never achieve them. You can keep seeking validation and confusing it with progress. Or you can step through the gateway and become who you actually are. Someone who works in silence. Someone who finds satisfaction in the work itself. Someone who lets results speak louder than intentions. Consciousness evolves through individuals who are willing to individuate, who are willing to step out of collective patterns and into their own power. When you stop performing and start creating, you change not just your own life, but the frequency of possibility for everyone around you. Your transformation is not just personal, it is collective. When you work in silence and emerge with results, you give permission to everyone watching to do the same. You prove that validation is optional, that witnesses are unnecessary, that power is built in the dark. You are finally ready to work without announcement. You are finally choosing your evolution over your excuses. You are finally willing to let the old identity die so the real you can emerge. And that choice changes everything. Welcome to the beginning of who you were always meant to be